is the 12th of September, a Friday, and I'm reading The Comedians. It's a novel by Greene. It was published in 1966. Started with a journey on a cargo ship. The three comedians are Mr. Smith, the presidential candidate, Mr. Jones, who also calls himself Major Jones, and Mr. Brown, who is the teller of the story and owns a hotel in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, which he inherited from his mother. We are in the second part of this book, and this is chapter 4. Dr. Maggio crouched a long time above the body of the ex-minister. In the shadow cast by my torch, he looked like a sorcerer exorcising death. I hesitated to interrupt his rites, but I was afraid the Smiths might wake in their tower suite. So at last I spoke to break his thoughts. They can't pretend it is to be anything but suicide, I said. They can pretend it be whatever suits them, he replied. Do not deceive yourself. He began to empty the contents of the minister's left pocket, which was exposed by the position of the body. He said, he was one of the better ones, and looked with care at each scrap of paper like a bank clerk, checking notes for forgery, holding them close to his eyes, and his big globular spectacles, which he wore for reading only. We took our anatomy course together in Paris, but in those days even Papa Doc was a good enough man. I remember Duvalier in the typhoid outbreak in the 20s. What are you looking for? Anything which could identify him with you. In this island, the Catholic prayer is very apt. The devil is like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. He hasn't devoured you. Give him time. He put a notebook in his pocket. We haven't the leisure to go through all this now. Then he turned the body over. It was heavy to move even for Dr. Maggio. I'm glad your mother died when she did. She had borne enough. One Hitler's sufficient experience for a lifetime. We talked in whispers, for fear of disturbing the Smiths. A rabbit's foot, he said, for luck. He put the object back. And here is something heavy. He took out my brass paperweight in the shape of a coffin marked R.I.P. I never knew I had a sense of humor. I never knew he had a sense of humor. That's mine. He must have taken it from my office. Put it back in the same place. Shall I send Joseph for the police? No, we can't leave the body here. They can hardly blame me for a suicide. They can blame you because he chose this house to hide in. Why did he? I never knew him. I met him once at a reception, that's all. The embassies are closely guarded. I suppose he believed in your English phrase, an English gentleman's home is his castle. He had so little hope, he sought safety in a catchword. It's the hell of a thing to find on my first day home. Yes, I suppose it is. Chekhov wrote, suicide is an undesirable phenomenon. Dr. Maggio stood up and looked down at the body. A coloured man has a great sense of occasion. It isn't ruined by Western education. Education only changes the form of its expression. Dr. Maggio's great-grandfather might have been whaled in the slave compound to the unanswering stars. Dr. Maggio pronounced a short, carefully phrased discourse over the dead. However great a man's fear of life, Dr. Maggio said, suicide remains the courageous act, the clear-headed act of a mathematician. The suicide has judged by the laws of chance so many odds against one that to live will be more miserable than to die. His sense of mathematics is greater than his sense of survival. But think how a sense of survival must clamour to be heard at the last moment. What excuses it must present of a totally unscientific nature. I thought that as a Catholic you would have utterly condemned. I'm not a practicing Catholic, and in any case, You are thinking of theological despair. In this despair there was nothing theological. Poor fellow, he was breaking a rule. He was eating meat on Friday. In his case, the sense of survival did not put forward a commandment of God as an excuse for inaction. He said, "You must come down and take the legs. We have to remove him from here." The lecture was finished, the funeral oration spoken. It was a comfort to feel myself in the large, square hands of Dr. Maggio. I was like a patient who accepts, without question, the strict regime required for a cure. We lifted the Secretary for Social Welfare out of the bathing pool and carried him towards the drive, where Dr. Maggio's car stood without lights. "When you get back," Dr. Maggio said, "you must turn on the water and wash away the blood." "I'll turn it on all right, but whether the water will come..." He propped him on the back seat. In detective stories, a corpse is always so easily made to look like a drunken man, but this dead thing was unmistakably dead. The blood had ceased to flow, but one glance into the car would note the monstrous wound. Luckily, no one dared move on the roads at night. It was the hour when only zombies worked, or else the Tonton Macoute. As for the Tontons, they were certainly abroad. We heard the approach of their car. No other car would be out so late. Before we reached the end of the drive, we switched our headlights off and waited. The car was being driven slowly uphill from the capital. We could hear the voices of the occupants arguing above the grind of the third gear. I had the impression of an old car which would never make the grade up the long slope to Pentonville. What would we do if it gave up the ghost at the entrance of the drive? The men would certainly come to the hotel for help and some free drinks, whatever the hour. We seemed to wait a long time before the sound of the engine passed the drive and receded. I asked Dr. Maggio, "Where do we take him?" "We can't go either up or down," he said, without reaching a block. "This is the road to the north, and the militia daren't sleep for fear of inspection. That's probably what the Tontons are doing now. They'll go as far as the police post at Kamskov if the car doesn't break down." "You had to pass a roadblock to get here. How did you explain?" "I said there was a woman sick after childbirth. It's too common a case for the man to report if I'm lucky. And if he does report, I shall say I could not find the hut." We drove out onto the main road. Dr. Maggio put on the headlights again. "If anyone should be out and see us," he said, he will take us for the Tontons." Our choice of terrain was severely limited by the barrier up the road and the barrier down. We drove 200 yards uphill. That will show that he passed the Trianon. He was not on the way there, and turned into the second lane onto the left. It was an area of small houses and abandoned gardens. Here had lived in the old days the vain and the insufficiently successful. They were on the road to Pentonville, but they had not quite arrived there. The advocate who picked up the unconsidered cases, the failed astrologer, and the doctor who preferred his rum to his patients. Dr. Maggio knew exactly which of them still occupied his house, and who had fled to escape the forced levies that the Tonton Macoute collected at night for the constructions of the new city, Duvalierville. I had contributed 100 gourds myself. To me, the houses and gardens seemed all equally unlived in, and uncared for. "In here," Dr. Maggio directed. He drove the car a few yards off the road. We had to keep the headlights burning, for we had no hand free to hold a torch. They shone on a broken board, which now announced only "Pot, your future boy." "So he's gone," I said. "He died." "A natural death. Violent deaths are natural deaths here. He died of his environment." We got the body of Dr. Filippo out of the car and dragged it behind an overgrown bougainvillea, where it could not be seen from the road. Dr. Maggio twisted a handkerchief round his right hand and took from the dead man's pocket a a small kitchen knife for cutting steak. His eye had been sharper than mine at the pool. He laid it a few inches from the minister's left hand. He said, Dr. Philippot was left-handed. You seem to know everything. You forget we took anatomy together. You must remember to buy another steak knife. Has he a family? A wife and a boy of 6. I suppose he thought that suicide was safer for them. We got back into the car and reversed into the road. At the entrance of my drive, I got out. All depends now on the servants, I said. They'll be afraid to talk, Dr. Maggio said. A witness here can suffer just as much as the accused. So that was the first Roman 1 of chapter 4.